Hey everybody, welcome to the live stream. Really glad to see you join. My name is Nadia. I'm a UK Global Talent Visa recipient and coach. So I got endorsed for this amazing visa 2 years ago as a software engineer. And since then, I've helped, I think, over 250 or something like this IT professionals with this visa. I've coached and consulted quite a lot of people by now. And this live stream is part of my series of interviews where I actually interview my own clients, which was kind of my dream when I started doing the live streams some time ago. So today I'm very excited to bring to the stage my guest. 1 second. Hello, Vasia. Welcome to the live stream.
Hi, Nadia.
Hi.
Nice to
How?
meet you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Yeah. How are you doing? How was your week started?
I'm actually fine. I'm doing the preparations in order for my relocation in the UK. So yeah, everything happened very quickly actually.
Yeah.
After I managed to complete my
Yeah.
application, everything else was
Mhm.
very quick.
Yeah. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself? Just an intro to the viewers who might not know you. You know where you're from, what you do for a living. Just a short intro.
Yes, of course. I am Vasia Christoulaki and I am from Greece. I have a background in user experience and service design, and I started my professional career here in Greece by creating two design agencies because that was actually the only way that I could create a job for myself because back then and even today, UX and service design is not a very familiar topic. It's not a very mature market here in Greece. So I had to create my own opportunity. So yes, I created two design agencies. The former one, Design for Future, specialized in designing products and services for the public sector. And this specific specialization actually led me into becoming the first UX and service designer that worked for the public sector here in Greece in the context of a public company which is under the Ministry of Digital Governance of Greece. In short, yeah, this is me.
Yeah. Thank you for the intro. I think your experience is definitely different than a lot of designers that I've helped. Since you worked in the public sector, right, and that presented some challenges when working on the application itself. So, how did you learn about the visa, and in general, what motivated you to want to relocate to the United Kingdom?
Yes. So yeah, the United Kingdom and design in the UK is actually a very mature field. I was always learning from the UK. So I started looking for a job in the UK, and actually back in March 2024, I actually secured a job with an organization. However, unfortunately, I couldn't secure the visa sponsorship from the organization due to the recent changes in the law that impacted my application. So I started looking for alternative routes in order to be able to secure my visa because the job would be there for me and waiting for me if I could find a way to legally come to the UK. So I started searching online, and specifically I searched on the Gov UK platform because I knew that there were different visa routes, but I had never studied about them, so I didn't know what were the different choices I had. And I found about the Global Talent Visa, and I thought that I would probably be eligible for that. And this is how it all started, actually. And then I started checking more online in order to find more information about how I can do my application in order to see and understand if I am actually eligible for this visa. and this is how I actually came across your YouTube channel. And I started watching Nadia's video, which were actually very informative, and I learned a lot of things about the process, about what I should be aware of when I would be preparing my application. Um, yeah, however, I still wasn't 100% sure that I was actually eligible for this talent visa, especially due to the fact that my most of my professional career was in the context of design agencies. I had only approximately 3 years of experience in a product company. So I couldn't understand, yeah, if I was eligible, and if I was actually eligible, which route should I choose? Should I opt for exceptional talent, or should I opt for exceptional promise? Because I had less years of experience specifically in the digital sector. Yeah, so I decided. Okay, so Nadia is actually connecting. Hi, Nadia.
Yeah, yeah. Sorry, yeah, my internet died, so I had to move to another room.
No,
Sorry for
not
that.
actually. Yeah. I don't know if we were actually live, but I was.
Yeah, we're live. We're live, and you were heard very well, and so only I broke off, so everybody was able to listen to your story.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, so I kept on by describing the process of how I actually found out about you and how we started our collaboration. So yeah, would you like me to continue?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. It's
Okay,
it's
cool.
mostly for the for the audience.
Yeah, cool. So thank you guys for hanging out with us. Yes. So yeah, after doing all this research and after still being not being very sure about if I was eligible, I decided to book a discovery session with Nadia in order to get a clear idea whether I was eligible and all this kind that we discussed. So yeah, in our session we went beyond just determining and discussing about my eligibility. We also strategized at a high level about how to structure my evidence document, and we also identified which evidence would be relevant for the mandatory and the optional criteria, and which optional criteria I should actually opt for. And to be honest to you, Nadia, our session gave me a lot of confidence and reassured me that I was actually eligible, and that you told me that I will be very honest with you. I believe that you have strong chances of obtaining the visa, and this gave me all the courage I needed in order to start the process.
Yeah.
Because the process, yeah, it's a little bit complex, but yeah, this was very refreshing for me. So then I started working. I tried actually to start working on my application, but from the first document that I started creating, I realized that I actually needed Nadia's help more. I had seen that she had, I think she had just recently created a new product, a new course that it is available 24/7 for anyone that wants to buy it. So yes, I decided that it would be a great value for money. So I also bought Nadia's course. I watched very carefully all the videos with all the amazing and very rich information that she includes in the videos, and I actually took very detailed notes about the key insights, so that I don't have to go back every time in order to see for this specific evidence what I need to take to be aware of. I had written everything on my notebook, so I just went from page to page. And this is the moment actually where I felt super confident and knew exactly what steps to take next. So I started preparing, creating my documents. First, I created a list of potential experts who would provide the recommendation letters. And based on the initial list of evidence documents that we had brainstormed together in the discovery session, I also finalized that list of evidence that I would create and provide, and started. And the first documents that I started to create were the letters of recommendation.
Mm-hmm. So thank you so much for sharing all this. We had some nice comments. Such a great journey. I agree. There was another question. How long did you take to prepare? I think it's a nice next topic, right? So, how long was it between our discovery call and then you submitting? How long did it take you?
Okay, so there were some, since there was some risk involved, and this risk was also in terms of financial investment. After our discovery, and as another thing is, after our discovery call, it was actually Easter here in Greece, so everything was shut down for 2 weeks, was closed, and I also had a little bit of vacation. And when I came back from this vacation, after a little while, I started trying to create the document. Then I bought your course, and I think I should start counting time from the moment when I bought your course. I bought your
Mm-hmm.
course. I think I watched all videos. I spent 2 days to watch all of your
Mm-hmm.
videos
Mm-hmm.
and take very good notes. And after that, I started working. I actually worked full time on this application. And in many cases, I worked more than 8 hours per day. I don't have a full time job right now. I work as a freelancer. I have one project, but it is part time. So I
Mm-hmm.
was able to focus all of my energy and time on this task. And I think the whole process from starting, taking the big decision and starting the first document to submitting my application was 40 days, with some delays in between, due to in order to wait for and collect all the reference letters, the letters of recommendation.
Mm-hmm.
There are always some delays in this process.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
it was 35 to 40 days approximately.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So it's quite a lot of work, right? I think this is what people don't always understand. People I think underestimate how much time they need to prepare all of those documents and how much time goes into all of this. Also, I'm really happy to hear such nice feedback about the course. The goal was to basically provide support for people who are working on the evidences, and just to have lessons on the most common topics that everybody asked me. Right, so I'm glad that it was a nice source of support for you, and also great that you took notes. I think they helped as well.
Yes, yes,
Um,
yes.
yeah, there was another question. Was this your first attempt? But yes, it was, right? So you
Yes,
got it from first attempt, which is pretty great, I think.
yay.
Not everybody does. Yeah, I think also another misconception. People think that if I apply and I get rejected, that's the end. It's not really like this. A lot of people
Mhm.
apply many times and first get rejected, they appeal, maybe they get rejected again or something like this. But for you, it was smooth process. But I think from the get-go I was quite sure that this is going to be a strong case. I maybe missed this, but maybe we can talk about the evidence pieces in more detail, right? I think the letters of recommendation, this is more straightforward. What
Mhm.
about the evidences, like, and the criteria that you have chosen? We don't have to go into specific details of what was
Yeah,
there, but
yeah,
just to
yeah.
give people an idea of if somebody is a designer. I think we have actually, the internet connection kind of threw me off, but to all people watching this live, please make sure to say hi in chat. And if you're a designer, I'm very curious to hear what kind of designer you are, what you do specifically, and whether you're planning to apply for the visa, because I think a lot of designers signed up for this. And maybe you can share like specifically what your questions are as designers to a designer, because I think there are not that many interviews with designers on this topic, so I think it's a unique opportunity to ask questions. So yeah, I'm sorry for that digression, but yeah, maybe we can talk about the documents and to give people an idea of what they can use.
Yes, of course. So regarding the optional criteria, I chose the optional criteria 2, which focuses on demonstrating recognition for your work outside your immediate occupation. And for this category, I provided 3 documents. The first document highlighted the events that I started my career by organizing open community events in the context of my design agencies. I didn't even have established clients. I didn't have projects, but I started by organizing these kinds of events in order to promote UX and service design in Greece, in order to create awareness, create a community of people who will know about it, about its value and potential impact, so as to be interested to buy this kind of services that my agency provided. So yes, this first document actually highlighted some of the events that I have organized over the past 10 years. I actually focused on events that I organized the past 5 years based on the guidelines of the Tech Nation. And in 2019, so actually exactly 5 years before, all these efforts that I had been doing on my own culminated in the establishment of the Greek chapter of the Service Design Network. Service Design Network is a leading global not-profit organization that it is dedicated to advancing the field of user experience and service design, and it operates on a member-based on a member-based network with local chapters that are led by volunteers. So I am the founding member of the Service Design Network in Greece, and our mission is to promote UX and service design in Greece by doing events open, different kind of events and initiatives open to the community. So apart from describing what kind of events we did, what was the reach to the community, how many people attended, what was the specific focus of each event, because social media is also a big part today, I also provided analytics from our social media presence. And so if you search online on LinkedIn, Facebook, on Instagram, I think these are the social media that we have, on Service Design Network Greece, you will see that the numbers, they are actually not huge. So we have approximately 350 unique followers, 550 followers total in all 3 social media. However, I created a case around the fact that the reach and the engagement on our post, on each of our posts, actually exceeds our follower base. So we have a broader reach, and which also showcases a potential for the chapter to end this community and the field of UX and service design to grow even more in Greece. And I also tried to put those analytics in context by comparing them to the UK chapter of the Service Design Network. So through this organization, each team in a different country can create their own chapter, their own team in order to promote UX and service design. So the team in UK, which UK is a country that actually has approximately 7 times the population of Greece. So I showed that with Greece having about 1/7 of the UK's population, we also have roughly 1/7 of their followers as well, so that the assessor can understand the context behind the numbers. The second evidence that I provided described the events and conferences that I had talked. Each of them had over 100 attendees, and I focused on explaining the impact of my talks. For example, one of my presentations was focused on a project that actually failed, didn't go well, and all the lessons that I had learned. And in the evidence documents, I included tweets and evidence from attendees that they were discussing online, and they were further elaborating on the key points from my talk in order to demonstrate impact in this way. And the third document actually showcased my 2-year collaboration with a local university here in Greece, where I helped business students to use design thinking in order to create new digital products, services, and startups. My role was specifically to bridge the gap between theory and practice, and I was organizing interactive workshops with students where we were using specific tools in order to familiarize with tools that we as designers use in the market in the context of our daily job, so as to be more prepared when they leave the university and go to search for their first job. I also utilized my network, and I was inviting experts from local tech companies, incubators, and startups. And in order to showcase impact, so I described what I was doing, and in order to showcase impact, I provided data. For example, I participated in 2 courses. So in one of the courses, from the first to the second year, the number of students that actually enrolled doubled. So this provides an evidence that I actually helped somehow for this course to grow, and for the university to make even more money through my contribution. So what I learned from all this from this category was actually providing context on your numbers, on your situation. Something might look very minimum or small, like our presence on social media, but if you put it in context, you can create a solid case for you and showcase your impact both in numbers. I guess what I learned from Nadia is that numbers are very important for the tech nation, but whenever you cannot do it with numbers, also do it with qualitative things like tweets, people discussing about you, this kind of stuff. And I also chose. Please go on, Nadia.
Sorry. I really loved how you were describing all of this. I think what I remember from your case is specifically that you've done a great job with providing context for all the numbers and the impact. It's really important. I think people very often forget about it. I think it's like if you have huge numbers, it's easy. You just show big numbers. However, if your impact seems small, the question is whether it's really small or it just looks this way, right? And I think if you're working on some more niche projects, or if you're writing articles on some very specific topics that maybe not that many people in the world read about or know about, then you should always explain it. And it's, your case was one of such examples where context was super important, and I'm glad that it worked out. But also, I think your case was great because it had so much different evidence pieces, right? So many different kinds of evidences, and they all sort of fit together on this.
Yeah, and based on your advice, when on the third document where I showcased my collaboration with the university, I also included a reference letter from the product program director, who also discussed some of these the impact. So I actually provide it. another insight is to provide evidence from different sources. So from sources outside from the internet, from mentions that people mentioning you, from numbers, and from people that have worked with you or have hired you, like the people who
Yeah.
can provide a reference letter.
Yeah, I think it's really important to have a wide network of experts who support you in your application, and they normally everybody will have a few experts from your jobs or from the project that you led, but then they would also need to have, I think, especially for talent route, you need to have experts from the industry or just from the digital technology industry who can verify your impact, not just from your jobs. I think it's great to have some connections in the industry. This is what I recommend to everybody. Very important for talent. Common rejection reason, right, is that you only have letters from your jobs, which I think looks weaker, right? Yeah. So this was so you covered the external evidences in quite a lot of detail.
Yeah.
Is there anything left that we haven't discussed?
No.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we have like an overview. Okay. Yep.
And then I also chose the optional criteria 3, which is about demonstrating impact, which I think, if you can recall, it was the most challenging for me.
Yeah.
Because first of all, my experience was quite limited. I had only worked for almost 3 years in a product company, and this product company was actually quite weird and unfamiliar to what assessors are used to reading, because I guess probably they are used to reading cases from people who have worked in startups or in tech companies. I was working in a tech company, but it was creating digital products and infrastructures for the public sector, where things are more complex, but also features and UIs are not so funny, and they are quite basic, and sometimes they can even be considered as low-tech solutions. So yeah, for me, the challenge there was to manage again, to bring everything into context. And I think one of your best advice, Nadia, was to strategically think about my application and about my profile, who I am a designer that has focused on the public sector, and provide reference letters for each different project that I mention as a separate evidence document. And in these reference letters, apart from the experts highlighting my contribution to the project and my impact, they also highlighted different aspects of the problem, but in general, that in tech, in public sector, is a little bit more basic solutions, especially in a country like here in Greece, where digital transformation in the government, it is just starting to happening. So you may see more basic things, but the impact is actually bigger, it's slower, and it's harder to innovate and make change in the public sector. So it was like saying them, please keep this in mind when you are reviewing the cases.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's you always, if you have done something meaningful, that actually you have to ask yourself a question like, has this project really had an influence or impact on people and people's lives? And I think if the answer is yes, there are normally ways to present it properly for the assessor. Although I would admit that this particular criteria, I think, was quite a challenge for to write properly. Then we had, I think, a couple of edits on those documents, right? It was quite challenging to explain them. I think one thing that I remember is that, I think that the advice that I gave you, and also I give it to other clients, is that you should not, when you're explaining something, you should not sort of apologize for numbers being low, or like for this tag being not as exciting as some other people might have. Like your goal is just to tell your story and provide context, but you don't have to apologize for the work that you've done if it was actually valuable. So in your case, I saw that the project that you've done for the government, for the public sector, they were actually helping people. So I felt that we could find a way to make it work, even though it wasn't like a typical case where a designer works at a big tech company or a startup where they're just building features for the product, and it's really easy to describe those features or those projects. But I think it's more fun to work on more challenging cases for me, I think, at this point. And there's this interesting question that is somewhat related, right? If you work in a company and government related nonprofit organization, I think here the question is more about, I think what people need to understand is that it's not that much about your exact contract or like job offer that you have at the point when you apply. It's more about what digital products you have built or designed or implemented if you're a designer or an engineer, and what was the impact of those projects. And this is what we need to start with, not exactly like where you work currently. I think this is what trips people in the technician guide. They see that like if you're a consultant or a contractor, then you're not really eligible. So that's a whole different topic. But I think if for the commenter, if you want to discuss it like in more detail specific to your situation, I'm available for consultations. But generally, if you're starting to think about it, think about projects, right? Like what you've done and what the result was. I think this is where we sort of started as well with, right? So would you say that the biggest challenge in this application was the OC3 documents, or was there something else that you found?
Oh my God, definitely. Are you kidding me? And I knew it from the very beginning. First of all, because I was I had worked on very specific projects. So I don't know how many projects you can work in 3 years' time if you work in a big tech company or in a startup. But in the public sector, I had worked on a very limited number of projects. So I had very specific projects that I could use from this company. But after revisions and by following your encouragement at the beginning, I was considering to include only 2 case studies for this category, but finally I also added a 3rd project as an evidence. Although it was also quite a tricky project because it was a multi-stakeholder project that it was conducted in the context of my design agency. So yeah, typically this would not be considered relevant to the technician. But again, if you put it into the right context, if you manage to, after your guidance, I tried very hard to, focus on my very specific role on this very big project and provide data and information for the assessor to show them that this is my specific contribution, this is what I did, and this is the impact that it brought. I think it was also a great addition finally. And all of the 3 evidence documents in this category, I also included reference letters in each of them. And I think that especially because of one of the products that I described is still in development, the reference from the team leader was very important, the reference letter, because this was the chance for us and for me to showcase from an external source projections about user acquisitions, about projections about how we feel that this product, what is its value, added value, and how many citizens we estimate that we will manage to acquire the first year of it.
think this is very important. Sometimes people ask me, should I include a project that is still being developed? And the answer is that if you believe that it's a strong addition to your case, then yes, you can do it. Obviously, you should have some projects that have already been shipped where you can show impact that already happened. If you have a project that is still being worked on but has a big potential to impact a lot of people, I recommend getting a reference letter from an expert where the expert will talk about the potential impact and why this project is important for the company. I have, a lot of my clients have received such letters from their experts in the past, so that definitely works. But I think that overall, yes, your experience was different than most designers, but I think what made me hopeful about your case from the get-go is that you had this external profile, right? So you had the conferences, the volunteering, and all the like external stuff that you have done over the years. And I think this is key, right? So when people start thinking about the application, I think this is where I would start, like not being too focused on like exactly what is your job description, what is your contract, right? Are you full-time somewhere? Are you a contractor? Are you have your own design agency or your own like, I don't know, LTD or whatever? Like, don't worry about that too much. Start from the external stuff. Start from Googling yourself, right? Seeing like what comes up. What have you done for the community? What have you done in the industry? Other people who have written about you, other interviews with you or something like that. So this is where I would start. And I think if you see that you don't have anything at all like outside of your job, I think that's to me that's a red, like that's a bit of a red flag, right? Not your exact job title. I think that those things they can be worked with, and I think this is not a very standard approach. I know that like a lot of lawyers are very strict about it, and if you go to a lawyer and you have some consultancy experience, they just say you're not eligible, you should not apply. But it's not that black and white. There are always like edge cases, and yes, people who are consultants, people who work in agencies, they get endorsed, and that's objective fact, right? Such people get endorsed. But I think it's for everybody, it's important to have an external profile, but especially if your professional experience is a little bit different, this is where it becomes even more important, right? So just for everybody watching this, be aware that it's not as like straightforward as it might seem from the guide. It's a little bit more, things can be a little bit more flexible, but you have to have that recognition in the industry. It's so important. And whenever I see this in someone's profile, I know that the rest we can work with, right? The rest is not easy, but it's easier. I think that covers it. So okay, so we received the question 3 times actually, so we should answer it, I think. So in how much time did you receive the decision? How much time did you wait?
Yeah, so I was also lucky. I was lucky on that. So in less than 2 weeks, I didn't actually expect that. In less than 2 weeks, yeah, I received the endorsement decision.
2 weeks, yeah, and this was quite recent, right? So this is August. It was in August,
Yeah,
right? Yeah,
yes, of
yeah.
course. It was.
So it just happened, yeah.
It was actually last week.
Last week. Okay, so we're recording this very, very quickly. That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, amazing. So yeah, we have like fresh feedback. So hopefully that covers it. But I think mostly, I mean, technician can take up to 8 weeks to think about the decision, but it's very rarely I hear that about such cases that it takes 8 weeks. Usually it's quicker. I think the record that I've had is like one client got endorsed in 1 day. So it was like 24 hours plus, and that was incredible. But usually it's longer. So it's, I think, 10 days, 14 days is like average number of time. But, if you're preparing to apply, don't expect that this will happen in 2 weeks, because this can really derail your other plans, right? You need to budget the time to get the endorsement. Maybe it can take, a month, right? So that's, I think, also common. And then you also need to apply for the visa or change your visa. So that's a whole different story, but hopefully that answers it. I think there was this question about, like, in general, like the process of getting endorsement. So maybe, I'm not sure I understand the question, so maybe the author can clarify, but I think maybe you can tell people a little bit about, like, okay, so, I know that this process is very complicated, and it's like, where do I start? What do I do? So imagine that somebody has all the documents, the letters, the evidence is like everything is prepared, right? So what is the next steps? Maybe briefly, like what needs to be done next to get endorsed technically?
Yeah. So the first step is actually to apply for the stage one. Getting the endorsement is actually called the first stage of this process, which actually has two stages. So in order to have the right to submit your application, first you have to apply and pay a fee for this whole process to happen at the home office website. So this is what I did, and after that they give you a specific code for your case, and then it's actually like filling in a questionnaire. The application in the Tech Nation site. So after you pay the fee in the home office, you can upload all the documents that you have prepared in the Tech Nation website, and you submit it, and this is where stage one is completed. And then it's the stage two starts after you get your answer. So if you get endorsed, then you have to provide this letter of endorsement to the Visa and Immigration Office of the Home Office. So do another big actually application with a lot of steps that they ask you a lot about you, because it is a visa process, and submit also your letter, pay a little bit, some added fee, but it's not that much. I think the total cost is around £700, maybe, the overall cost of the project, of the process, of the two stages. And this total amount is actually split into parts. You pay not half of it, most of it in the first stage. And if you get endorsed, you pay the rest of it. If you don't get endorsed, you don't get your money back. So this is the financial investment. This is the minimum financial investment that you will have to do for this visa, and there is the risk that you may not get endorsed. But if you collaborate with Nadia, you will minimize to zero this chance.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. Very kind.
Yeah, so it has two stages. You pay a fee, you submit a different application in each stage, and after the stage two, the Visa and Immigration Office comes back and gives you the visa.
I think that I think is a pretty accurate description of the process, but I think you skipped a very large cost in the stage two, which is the health surcharge, the NHS.
Oh my God! Yes, I skipped that. Oh yes. Yes.
Yeah, because people listen to this like, oh, it's £700, like I can do it. Yeah, I think that's a major shock to a lot of people, like how much this actually costs, right? Basically, if you apply for a visa to the UK, you have to pay the health surcharge, which is sort of to cover your future, quote unquote, free healthcare with the NHS. And you pay upfront, right, for the number of years that you want to get the visa for. And you also pay for your dependents, your partner, your children, which is a large cost that people need to be aware of and plan for, because some people don't expect it, and then it's like a huge shock. So yeah, something to be like, I think this is like the biggest shock to people. After they get the visa, they're very happy, and then they see the numbers, and it's just crazy. So let's not talk about like sad things, but if you're applying for the visa, make sure you Google the international health surcharge, and cry for a little bit to just find the money. But yeah, you can choose like how many years you get the visa, so you can save a little bit of money, but then you will need to extend it, and then it's kind of, you don't need a new endorsement, you just extend the visa, but it's a procedure, right? So a lot of people just tend to get the maximum number of years they can afford, and kind of to save themselves the hassle and the time, and also the health surcharge. It was increased this year, so there's a chance it might get increased again. So people plan to, like, I just pay for 3 or 5 years and I'm done with that. But basically, that's the process. You didn't have a lawyer help you like fill out those applications. Did you do it yourself? Was it difficult for you? Was it okay?
No, okay, it was quite basic. No, it wasn't actually difficult. I had a few questions, but they were very minor, which I managed to. I actually, I asked you a couple of things, but I had already figured it out on my own, and you told me that it was of non-importance. So, no, I think that it is quite. Okay, it's the application, to fill in the application itself. It's quite easy task. It might be time consuming, especially for the stage 2 application, but no, it is okay.
Yeah. I think most of my clients, they fill those applications out without any lawyers. And I used to have this premium coaching package where I helped people fill out the stage 1 forms, but I've discontinued that. And also, I think pretty much everybody can figure out most of it on your own. And then there is the Technation Visa Forum exists where people ask those questions, and these are the same questions that everybody has. So generally, if you want, some people like the security of having like a lawyer, fill out the forms and feeling like, okay, I take the responsibility for that. But I don't know if it's necessary. It depends on the person, right? So some people have anxiety around those forms. But I think normally stage 2, getting the visa itself, this process will depend very much on your passport, on your situation, whether you are applying from outside the UK, from inside the UK, whether you are changing your visa or getting a new visa, all those things will be different, the requirements. So that's why we don't typically focus on that, during our interviews. Also, stage 2 is not something that I help with. But the general overview will be similar to what was described now. So hopefully this provides you with some information and guidance, but the specifics, please, make sure that you either do your own research or you get a qualified lawyer, advisor in the UK, registered advisor in the UK who can fill your forms for you, right, if you need that help. But generally, I think the process is quite straightforward. I think the difficult part is getting the endorsement.
Yes,
but as you said, the endorsement fee is non-refundable. So if you don't get endorsed, you lose the money. But also remember that if you don't get endorsed from the first attempt, it's not necessarily the end of the world. There is opportunity to appeal, and that's a free process. You don't have to pay for it. So the appeal process also is useful. It helps a lot of people. This summer, I've seen a lot of the times where appeals actually work for cases where I was quite surprised that it helped for all of the criteria. So somebody, for instance, reached out to me. They got rejected on all of the 3 criteria, and they got endorsed after the appeal, which happens. I rarely saw that before. So I think that the appeals can work if you can make a good case for why you think you actually meet the criteria. So appeals is something that I also help with. It's not always possible to overturn a decision, but I think if you don't want to pay somebody to help you with that, just try to do it yourself, at least to get another assessment of your case if you believe in it, right? But also on my channel, you can find a lot of interviews with people who got rejected the first time they applied or the first few times. So that's definitely it's part of the process for a lot of the people, but ideally you want to get endorsed the first attempt and not waste any more time or money. Okay, let's maybe look at some.
Can I add something regarding the appeal?
Yeah.
So I liked that you actually pushed me and prepared me for the worst case scenario. So even if you were quite sure about me and the chances that I had in order to get endorsed, you told me you advised me to include a lot of reference letters and have, in order to be able to make arguments about if someone, for example, says that, okay, this is a very basic and low-tech solution, this is not for this kind of level of expertise we are looking for. So yes, I really liked that. Yeah, you try to make the best in each case, and you actually, in order to make the best, you actually prepare someone for the worst case scenario, and this means that they are actually super prepared and the worst case scenario will not happen.
Yeah, I think it's important to have a plan A. Like I always try to think about plan A, plan B, plan C for people, because I get a lot of people who come to me after working with either agencies or lawyers, and sometimes they apply for the visa, they get rejected, and then they spend time like not knowing what to do, and then they come to me, and I look at this and I'm like, okay, so but there was like, I don't know, 5 months between you getting rejected and coming to me. I think this time, I think ideally, I wish we talked 5 months ago, because then I would have given you like plan C, what you need to do to maybe boost your profile a little bit. Maybe there are some like additional things that you can improve or do something, right? There are like strategic things that maybe you wanted to get involved with, and you could have done it already. So I think now I've started to have like plan A, plan B, plan C. Plan C is when even the appeal doesn't work, and you have to reapply in 6 months, let's say. What will you do in those 6 months, right? Mm-hmm. So that's, I think, is also important. And the plan B part, where you have to appeal, I think it helps, because once you know why people get rejected, and once you have seen a lot of rejections, either in forums or chats, or people, reach out to me with rejections also quite a lot, and I see those reasons. So once I see those reasons, I can reverse engineer almost a perfect application, right? I think for me, like I see that this is quite doable, especially if somebody has a very like standard background. But I think I often think about it these days, is that it has become quite difficult for just like an applicant, just somebody working in tech, just kind of go in and apply for the visa themselves. I think the threshold is quite high and the requirements are quite specific. So I feel like it's become harder to apply without like either doing a lot of research for free, right, or getting some external help, which I don't know. I'm not sure how I feel about this. Like, I kind of like the idea of this visa being, very like open, permissionless, like everybody can apply, and it's great. But I think it's quite complicated at this point. I don't know what you think, and what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. And this is actually what I experienced, because in every step, when I tried to make every step, so when I tried to start writing on my own my documents, I realized that even though I had spent a lot of hours online looking for information, taking a lot of your YouTube channel videos, I felt frozen. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know where to start from. I didn't know how to structure my evidence. So I said, I need Nadia. So that's why I bought your course. After I bought your course, I knew that there would be a problem with the optional criteria 3, which were the case studies for me, and I really wanted for this to happen. So that's why I bought your review service. So yes, no.
Yeah.
Totally agree. And this is actually what my sister actually told me. She was actually upset because when I was explaining here the process, she got upset because she told me, "Oh my God, it's so complicated. They should make it, if they want to give a chance to someone, they should make it as easy for them as possible." Anyway, it is what it is, and thank God there are people out there who can help. Even the forum, you can find a lot of information in the forum, even if you don't go for a visa coach. But honestly, I think, especially with the price of your course, I think this is you shouldn't even consider. You should just go and buy it. Honestly, it's you will feel much better after that.
I agree. I love this course, and yeah, you should everybody should just buy it and like not lose any more time. I'm joking. Obviously, it's up to you, but like my goal with the course was to sort of make it affordable to most people, and to kind of have like a middle ground between going for coaching, which is expensive for a lot of people because it is one-on-one, right? So it's kind of white glove treatment. I don't outsource it to anybody, it's just me doing this. But then also there's the alternative of you sitting on forums for like 5 months, searching for like every answer. This is what I did when I was applying. Like I had questions and I had no idea where to go, what to do. And I had the forums, some chats were appearing. But even back then, there was very little information on YouTube. So we were really scrambling for information. And I think I had trouble understanding the most fundamental things, like what is an evidence document? This was a big question. Like, what is it? Like, how does it look like?
Exactly.
Like, yeah, what should be in it, right? And now it seems very obvious, but in a lot of ways, the YouTube channel was inspired because I wanted to. Before I thought that I would forget this experience and like forget like the rules of the documents. So yeah, I wanted to record the thoughts that I still had back then, so that others can benefit. And I explained like what the criteria were, what to put where, basically. But I think the videos that I made back then, I think they are still mostly relevant. But now I know so much more. Than that's what the motivation for getting the course out, so that it's like up to date information based on. My real clients, and I mean, obviously not based on my real clients, but on my experience working with clients, and seeing like what is really meant by that. So I think it's a good resource. Like if I was to travel back in time, it kind of depends on currently I'm working on my abundance thinking, and I like to think that I would have gone for the coaching, but I don't know. I think that the course I would definitely have bought. So yeah, definitely something to consider, and I'm happy that it helped you. If you want to do it your own way, the YouTube, hundreds of hours of free information on my YouTube channel. So also, if you're watching this live or in a recording, make sure to like the video, subscribe, and just kind of show the support to the channel, because I know that I've worked with a lot of people, but many more people watched the videos for free and got endorsed for the visa just based on this YouTube channel, which is, some people reached out to me and said that the YouTube channel helped them, which I think is pretty good as well, right? It's an amazing recognition for the value. So really glad for that. Let's look at some of the, actually, I see like a superstar, a lot of questions today. A lot of people watching live still. So if you have some remaining questions, we can answer them. Is it okay for you to stay for a few more minutes to take the questions?
Yes, definitely. As long as you wish.
Yeah.
No problem.
So guys, you're in luck today. So okay, so how many LORs are required for OC3? So maybe I can expand on that. So there's no like requirement, right? How many letters should be there? It's just whatever is relevant or appropriate. So I think some clients have, like if they have 3 evidence documents, they will have 3 reference letters, like in each of them. Some have 3 documents, but then 2 letters as part of them, something like this. Do you remember what you had? How many letters you had?
Yeah. I think I had a lot of reference letters. So for the optional criteria, for the OC3, for the projects, I included a reference letter in each project, and I think this was actually made quite a difference. So it made my case much stronger, and in cases where the product was under development, it was the only chance for someone external to provide evidence that our estimations regarding users and etc., and metrics are these. So yes, in this category, all of the evidence included reference letters, and in the second optional criteria, I think no. I had one reference letter over there from the program director of the university I collaborated with, and I also included reference letters in both of the documents evidence I created for the mandatory criteria. So
Yeah, I think it's hard to
there were
have too many letters.
that I think that actually helped. But yes, there were
Yeah,
6 reference letter in addition to the 3 required letters of
so
recommendation.
nine in total. Yes. I think,
Yes,
but also I think important to realize that it was not like just letters, right? It was a letter plus other evidence pieces. So you cannot just
yes, of
have
course.
100 letters without anything. It's just that
No, no, no,
people sometimes misunderstand and they submit 100 letters and then they get rejected because you cannot just use letters. But you can have a lot of them if they support strategic parts of your application. And I think in my experience, the maximum we've had was I think 11 letters in total, so 3 main ones and 8 additional ones. So that was pretty crazy. Yeah, but that application also got endorsed, so I think it also worked really nicely. So yeah, letters definitely great tool to boost your application.
But
Yeah.
also be careful to include them in not have them as a separate document, evidence document, but
Yeah.
include them in other evidence documents. So
Mm-hmm.
have a colleague or the product owner discussing about your impact on the project. The first 2 pages must showcase what you did in the project, what was the problem, what was the business need, what are the features that you developed, what was the change that you brought. So you only have, if you actually include a reference letter, you are only left with 2 pages in order to be able to put all the important information, which was also one of the struggles for me. But it is a great exercise in order to think strategically about what is the most important things that I should include
Yeah.
and what are the less important that if I skip them, it will not make such a difference. And at the
Yeah.
beginning, unfortunately, I think that I was focusing on the less important. And after your feedback, less important for the technician because I
Yeah.
was used to structuring my project case studies more from the aspect of the user. So what added value did we bring to the user? But now I had to shift my perspective, and this is what I actually managed to do after you pushing me in with all your guidance to focus or also incorporate the impact on the business, which is very important for
Yeah.
technician.
I think one thing that I now remember is that an approach that I've seen other designers take in their applications as well. And unfortunately, some designers who reached out to me this summer, they got rejected before. And one thing that I've noticed is that there is this typical approach where a designer has a case study of a project, for instance, or a product, and they would go into a lot of details about the process and like exactly what they've done. They would be like, okay, so here was the ideation stage, here we had a brainstorm with the engineers, then we had like this and that, and then I created mock-ups, and it was like 3 pages of the process of how this was done exactly, and then like what the product was, and then like a little bit about the results. And I think what some people struggled with is that in the rejection, they saw that the documents they have submitted, it was just them doing their job basically, right? And I think the problem here is it's a perception issue. I think if you go into too much detail on the day-to-day level of like what you do as a designer, how this is done, and this applies actually to everybody, to other specialists as well. I think it kind of, in a weird way, it cheapens your application a little bit because it's like, it kind of looks very mundane what you've done, right? So you've created some mock-ups and then you talk to design to engineers or to PM or something like this. So this is what I've observed. And then if you just remove all of that kind of day-to-day mundane, uninteresting stuff for technician, obviously, and you just focus on high-level overview of, what was the task, why it was necessary, what was the result, and then like a lot about the impact. This is what they want to see, because then it can be the same. So I think what's important to remember is that it can be the same thing, right? But it can look completely different, and it can have a completely different perception. So just something to keep in mind, like, if you're writing the self-written part of the evidences, like ask yourself, does it feel like you're just describing your day-to-day job, or are you like giving a high-level overview of a really impactful project, right? So also, like, don't worry too much about like whether your project is really that interesting or cool or exciting for a technician. I think by this time I've seen like, very exciting projects being described, and then some projects that without proper storytelling would not look that interesting, right? So it's all about the impact and the structure of the documents, I think. So that was another thing that I just remembered from our
Yeah.
work as well. Hopefully this helps people as well.
Yes. And what I
Yep.
also learned from you is that I think the whole process of the application is about creating a compelling story in two levels. First of all, you have to create a compelling story around you. So all of your documents should if you see them from a high level, they should all combined create different pieces of the puzzle that it is you. And maybe in different documents, you can also repeat information about aspects of yourself. So, yeah, I tried to understand what is my approach and the added value that I can bring to an organization, and what is the things that I really enjoy doing during the work, which is designing services for the public sector, um, working in internal processes in order to create more design-led processes and help product teams in order to work more effectively and collaboratively, which was also evident in the different evidence documents that I provided and in the letters of recommendations. And the third fact was the community work that I did and that I like to promote design and help people who do not have a design background but are in very important positions and can actually affect design decisions to understand their role and understand design in order to better collaborate both with designers and to have better results. So these were the three pillars of let's say my profile that I highlighted in my personal statement, and aspects of it were also repeated and highlighted by other people in the reference letters, and aspects of it were also evident in the different documents in the optional criteria. So yes,
And
this is the
yeah.
one level compelling story, and the other level compelling story is the one that you have to create in order, actually to present your projects and your case study. So what I learned from you after many revisions, and thank you very much, it was about finding these important one or two or maybe maximum three important and very emergent business needs that you addressed. So what was the previous situation before you actually took action? So what was going wrong? And after you did what you did with your method, with your tools, with your features, what was improved? So these are the two things that actually helped me to completely restructure my documents after your many revisions.
Wow, this is really great. You speak pure gold. So I hope people can just take this advice and apply it, and not have issues that I think a lot of designers and other specialists, I think, who apply on their own, they struggle with this storytelling. Another thing that I remember is that you specifically tied all of this to your plans for the UK.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, yeah.
That's really important. Like, you have to have a very precise story of what you will do once you get the visa. And I think this is what the question that we've had, like, what is the most fundamental thing about this visa, right? So I think to understand the purpose of it, like why it exists. And the technician wants to basically, the UK government wants to attract people to the country, who will help advance the economy, right, and make economic contributions in a large respect. Basically, build stuff, pay taxes, create jobs, hopefully, and things like that. So I think in your case, you tied everything that you've done before to what you want to do in the future.
Yes, 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 and they were all aligned with these main pillars that I had highlighted in my profile. Yeah. So I said that I would like to do some community work and events or help organizations who are already organizing events. And since I had already established a collaboration and a job was waiting for me, and I knew the team and the organization, I was very lucky about that, and their plans and how they worked. These are things that they had described to me beforehand. So I could see myself in there and how I would like to help. So yes, I tied everything up in my reference. Yes, actually, this part of my plans in the UK, I think there were the last third of my reference letters. So it was a big section, let's say.
Yeah. I think it has to be a big part of your personal statement, and then your letters of recommendation should also make it clear like what your contributions to the UK will be. And I think this case highlights it very well. Like you don't have to work in a big tech company to be valuable to the digital economy or to the country as well. Like you can work for the public sector. I think it's a rarer scenario, but also I feel like a lot of the time people who don't work in a big tech company, they don't even bother applying, and there are like still misconceptions about like where you can work. Like recently I talked to a client who asked me about whether you can apply if you work in like a big corporation. Can you apply for the visa? And I learned that there is another misconception that you have to work in a startup to get endorsed, and like if you work in a big tech company, then you can't. And some people have the other way around. They think that you have to work in Facebook to get endorsed, and if you work in a small startup, you can't. So I think just something to remember is that it's more about what you do than where you work to an extent, and like what you do is a lot of the time most important, right? We have a lot more questions. Let's look at them. So there's this one. I have a community by myself, and I'm doing a few different activities in there. With one community, such as writing articles, managing networking events, and having a mentoring workshop. Can I make the whole activity separately for different cases with one community? So I guess it's how to present this evidence in general in the application. I think there is. I think I would ask, like, if we were doing a call, I would ask for more details, like what is a community, how big it is, and like things like that. But I think typically this would be probably, hard to say. I mean, it depends on how much impact there is. Like this could be one document, or potentially, like mentoring can be maybe separate, or it can be one evidence. Depends on how much you have, and also like what else you have, right? So if there is a whole lot more evidence, then this would be one document. If maybe you have more slots, you could separate it, right? So I think it's pretty flexible, right?
Yes, I think, if the impact in one of these activities is smaller, so if it couldn't stand alone as a separate document, maybe you can add it to the other activities that are stronger. I guess so. What I learned from you is that it's all about showcasing strong impact, both in quality and quantity. So, if you have a lot of community members and you can showcase impact in this way, so you can split into documents, that's perfect. But if you need to work with numbers in total from the different activities, put in one document.
Yeah, it really depends. I think a lot of the times it depends on the what you have in general. So I think a similar question is, if I have public speaking engagements, like is each engagement a separate document, or should they all be in one document, or should they be in separate documents? So I think I'll say it depends. So I've seen different configurations. Sometimes, if somebody has like 15 public speeches, then we'd have them in 2 documents divided by some criteria. I don't know. It can be something quite arbitrary, like language. So one document is Spanish speaking events, and then another is English speaking events or something like this. So you can be quite creative with this. There are no like exact rules in that, and that's why I don't sell or share like specific templates for how a document should look like. It's more about what should be in it, like what's the purpose of it, right? So just ask yourself, like, what is the purpose of this evidence that you're drafting? And I think this should help. And there was another question from the same viewer, so about publishing and Medium. So I'll just, I think, quickly take this one. So yes, the point about Medium is that if you have your own blog on Medium and you just publish an article there, that's not considered such a strong evidence because there is no moderation and you can basically publish whatever you want. So unless you are a really popular blogger and you have a massive following and everybody in the industry, or like a lot of people in the industry read your blog, it's not the strongest evidence. So like LinkedIn post or post on Medium. So it's not about Medium. Medium is just a term to mean that it's not moderated, right? So in this case, I think the viewer is asking about publications, right, that are hosted on Medium, but that are moderated professional blogs. So that definitely can work. You can use that, but you have to, I think it's more about like how big they are and how big the audience is. And I don't know that off the top of my head, but I would check if they're significant, right, for the industry. But yeah, that's that. There were some other questions about consultancy. So working at a consulting firm. So yeah, I think here I feel really uncomfortable taking such questions on calls like this, or responding on comments, because I think it's very easy to say something that can sort of affect someone's life in a pretty fundamental way without really talking to them. So I think any cases where there is a consultancy involved, I like to talk to a person, or at least look at their profile, or like LinkedIn or CV or something like this. So Sangalo, suggestion to you, if you want me to look at your profile, you can just email me, and let me just put my email on the screen. So we can talk about this further. And it kind of sounds like me selling my consultancy, but in reality, it's just that I've heard stories when people were told, by somebody, like by some automated form or something like this, that you're not eligible. And then they kind of wasted a year, and then they applied and they got endorsed. So that's why I think it's very dangerous to give such advice in a format like this. There was another question about the health surcharge. Do you have to pay all the years upfront, pay for a year and subsequent years, dependents included? So would you like to share your thoughts on this in your experience?
Yes. So actually, since I got a talent visa, not the promising was yeah. So I decided to pay for the 3 years. That is the whole duration, and then you ask, I think, for IRL, right? Yeah, to stay in the UK. Because why? Initially, I wanted to pay only for 2 years, but I thought that then I would have to go over again the whole process of submitting an application for endorsement in TechNation. I didn't know that you can just ask for an extension of your visa.
Yeah. So you don't have to. Yeah, you don't have to go through the whole thing again. It's an extension process where there are some requirements, but to not kind of go into like immigration advice, it's more about proving that you've made some money in the UK during this time within your field where you got endorsed. So let's just say super vaguely like this. So there are some documents that are required, but it's not the whole endorsement process again. It's more about proving that you've used the visa that you were given for the purpose that you were given it, right? So you can extend it. However, I think in my view, I think it was a wise move to go for the maximum number of years, because I think it kind of removes the stress a little bit. But also, I know people sometimes get it done for like 2 years and then extend. This is also an option. I know a lot of people who got it extended. It's normally quite a simple procedure. I think that 1 year is really very, very little time, because once you get it, you move, then you settle, you do things, and then it's time for you to extend it, and you need to have proof that you've made money already. So I think it's a little bit stressful. And also you need to watch the dates and like not overstay and like this whole thing. So it's really, yeah, I think to answer the question of the viewer, you can decide how many years. But I think this is the question where I would talk to a qualified immigration advisor if you want to make it for shorter, because you need to also understand like how this affects your like the situation of your dependents and the ALR, so that everything lines up. So I know people sometimes try to do that, but most people that I know of, they just get like the maximum, so as not to think about it for the next few years. And also, if you I mean, obviously, like the money that they pay now is kind of worth more to you than the future money. But for some people, they think about it differently. It's like, I get it at a discount because then it will be more expensive. But yeah, it's different people have different calculations. So yeah, it's like trade-off, peace of mind, paying money. So that's the whole thing. But yeah, it's large expense in any way. Anywhere you go, that's something that you need to prepare for, right? So just proper budgeting. And there was another question: is it possible to apply for as an illustrator or designer? So I think here I'd say that if you in general work in design, there are a lot of different kind of specialties there. So I only help with designers who work in digital technology. So this can be different things that can be done there. But in general, designers sometimes choose to go into the Art Council endorsement, which is a whole different endorsement body and different requirements. So that's another option if you don't have experience in digital technology, if you work in other sorts of design areas, that can be a different option, but that can be discussed separately. And unfortunately, I don't help with art councils. But if you work in tech, then for sure, feel free to reach out. So I left my email. You can email me, or I think LinkedIn is a little bit difficult. I think it's too overwhelming now, so you can just email me, the best way to get in touch. I don't think we have any more questions left, and we've already been, it's an hour and a half. Wow, that's amazing. Okay, yeah, so so thank you so much for taking the time. Is there like any like parting thoughts that you wanted to, there was actually like a question like, what would you recommend to UX engineers or UX designers? I think this one, right? So it's like, what kind of tips do you have for UX designers? For personal projects, I would say that it kind of depends what kind of projects. If this were like side projects that you've built and that become successful apps, then this can be discussed. And I've had clients who did that. But let's just focus on the first part of the question, like what kind of tips, or like, for other designers, if you could go back in time and tell yourself something, what would you tell yourself? What kind of advice would you give yourself?
Oh, yes. First of all, the first advice I would give is start thinking for the purpose of the application more in the context of the business and the impact you created, and the impact and the business need. So maybe something was going wrong, and the company, due to that, was losing money, or losing customers, or didn't exploit all the potential opportunities in order to gain more customers, or there were operational struggles. So try to see the problem from this perspective, and then create your whole storytelling around this, how you created impact, first of all, in the business, and then, of course, this translates to the user experience. I was used to doing it the reverse way, and this took me a lot of tries in order to make that switch in my head. what other tips or biggest struggles?
Yeah, anything that comes to mind. If not, then I don't have to put you on the spot. I think we've covered a lot of ground. Like we've shared like advice on pretty much everything that there is to that application. I think it's one of the kind of more detailed interviews that I've held. So I think we've covered everything. It's all about having a consistent story, understanding why each document exists, and understanding why the visa exists at all. Like it's quite prosaic. It's like the country needs taxpayers and people who will create value, right? So that's the stated purpose of the visa. So you have to show how your work has helped other countries prosper, other companies. If you're already in the UK, right? So how have you built value in those companies? And that's the foundation. But then also important to show that you have recognition in the industry, that people quote you, people invite you to their interviews, people invite you to write an article for them, or you hold events with somebody, things like that. And public speaking engagements like you've had, mentoring or teaching at universities, like all of this stuff really helps. Don't ignore public contributions. If you're thinking of this visa for the future, this is my top advice always. Go speak at the conference. Like, if you remember one thing from this interview, like go speak at the conference. I think this will really help your application if you want to do it in the future. And such things, it's hard to replace those things, right? The external things. And I think in your case, it was like circling back to your case, I think you had the history of doing those things for years, right? It was not just like random last minute thing. You had the real history of the contribution. So I think that helped. And it was a pleasure having you here today, and pleasure in general coaching you through this process. So people are thanking this for the live stream. If you guys enjoyed it, as I said, hit like, maybe leave comments, leave a question afterwards. If you're watching this as a recording, I try to respond to comments that I can respond to. So I can't really offer assessments of your profile in comments, but if these are general questions, I do my best to respond. So you can reach out or email me if you have more specific questions. So thank you so much. Thank you for everybody for watching this. Thank you so much, Vasia, for your time and your.
Thank you for having me. I had an excellent time.
Yeah,
I wish all the best to you guys, honestly. And honestly, it's not because I succeeded. Nadia is actually the kind of person that I really enjoy and I like to collaborate. She's honest, she's empathetic, she's everything that I like. And I like people who push you in order to achieve, although the process is a little bit difficult when someone is pushing you and then you have to start again. But when you achieve what you feel great. And it was honestly, Nadia, it was the best decision in this whole process, collaborating with you. And I think the fact that I bought 3 different services or products from you, this showcases that I really needed you. And it's time you really provided value to me. And I felt that I trusted you and that I needed you even more because you had already given me much value, and I thought that you could give me much more if I took all the other services.
That's really sweet. Thank you so much. This really means a lot. Thank you. Don't take this for granted. So I think when you do this, you always hope that what you're providing people has value. And it's as you said, like it's not super pleasant to tell somebody to rewrite their document, basically. But I do feel like sometimes you have to say it, right, if it brings value. So I'm really happy that this worked out, and I hope that this interview will inspire people who maybe don't have the most traditional background, just to try and explore it. If this is something that you're really passionate about, I think it's worth exploring, right?
Yes,
okay.
Definitely. And exploring it with Nadia, guys, definitely.
Thank you so much. Okay, we'll wrap up now. Thank you so much for your time and your sharing the story, the learnings that you've had. and spending that much time. It's an hour. Yes, so this will be in 3 seconds. It will be an hour and a half. So that's amazing.
This will
Thank
be
you
a
so
big
much.
video.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
Bye
Wishing you
bye.
all the best. Bye bye. Good night. Bye bye.
Bye. Bye.
See
Good
you
night.
again.